Welcome to the Strategic Oracle, the transmission space where timing meets soul and wealth begins with the rhythm. Let's begin. We are celebrating a milestone right now. The milestone happens to have been, of course, we coordinated it, but it happens to be the 10th year of my annual forecast, along with this 250th episode. So I want to take a step back a little bit, and I want to tell you a story, which some of you may know if you've been following me for a while, but if you're new to the Strategic Oracle, if you're new to intuition, I'm hoping that this gives you the permission to yourself to open up to both sides of you, that linear, masculine, really beautiful, focused and disciplined side, as well as that feminine, wisdom, intuitive, spacious, edgy side, because the two of them together is what creates the success and the impact that you truly desire. So there is a moment that happens. Now, I wish I had a moment where it's, oh my God, the sun cleared through the clouds and it was one of those, there were probably a handful of moments, but I want to tell you, it was an absolute S show for years. I did not have a gracious, pivotal moment that I can say life before, life after. I can certainly say that, but it was not with something that was in this snap. So bear with me a little bit, because I think that for a lot of you, that is also the case. And some of you may be post that moment. Some of you may be in that moment right now. And some of you may be getting that inkling that a big shift is going to be happening to you. And I'm going to say, yes, everybody's going through a big shift right now. It's the sign of the times. Whether you're very evidence-based or you're very faith-based, faith being, I just take a leap and you don't have to demonstrate it to me. I just know it's true. That's more that intuitive side versus, no, show me the facts and figures. I don't have to go through the facts and figures if I talk about exhaustion or stress or lack or the attrition rate in corporations or the starting rate of solopreneurs. There is a massive shift going on. This is designed. And so what are we doing to position ourselves the best? I will tell you, it is to be equally immersed in your intuitive, wise, quantum leap energy, as well as that really sound, precise action, strategically focused discipline to reach the targets that you have set for yourself. So this is our 250th episode. So I do want to go behind the curtain and just talk a little bit about the origin story and talk about the methodology behind decades of prediction and why the future belongs to leaders who are combining that boardroom strategic precision with that wise woman cosmic intelligence. For me, I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine. I'm going to take you with me. I grew up in corporate. I was working in financial services, not from a industry perspective at first, but more from a delivery perspective, financial projections, budgeting, forecasting. I was an econ major, so that really made sense to be able to predict the company is here right now. Where does it think it's going to be in 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 years? I happen to be really good at it. I like numbers. I'm a numbers geek, so that could be one of those little known facts. I like it because they tell a story and they're really objective and they don't lie. So they are what they are. So I adore that. But I really loved the facility with them. I love the stories that they told. I loved being numerate. And when I say being numerate, I can look at a sheet of 1,000 numbers and I can tell you exactly what's right or what's wrong with that. And I can do it like in a heartbeat. I have a lot of experience in this. And I adored that. I really liked that. The world had a different idea of what I should be doing. So apparently I was supposed to go into leadership. A very reluctant leader, by the way, guys. Very reluctant leader. So I pivoted over and I started managing people and leading. And that's where I really realized, like, holy crap, it's just about potentiality. And that's what I was seeing on the forecasting side and on the budgeting and the spreadsheet side, and let the numbers tell the story. But then when you get the people involved, that's when you can supermax everything. And so I combined those two at first. That was like my little mini combination of the first round of this. And so what would happen? So I got accolades. I was in the boardrooms before I was 30. I was not there taking notes, by the way, guys. I was there with numbers, looking at them. When people were talking about, should we open this division? Should we close this geography? Should we buy this company? Should we merge this? Should we sell that? I was their numbers person and I was helping them figure that out. I loved it. But I also loved the people part of it. And for whatever reason, I then started doing consulting and I was working for Oracle. And apparently I was really good dealing with problems and fixing things. And I was really good closing deals. So they flew me all over the country. I was doing that for them. Learned a lot about running business. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about reading the room. I learned a real lot about some of those people. Some people would say the softer skills, but I just say that they're the movement skills. There's what's going to be the difference between a yes and a no. Traveling to 4 states a week, getting my MBA at night. I was really leaning into that linear goal orientation, get to the next level, the next title, the next promotion. It was working really well for me. And it was feeding me in a way that I didn't realize I needed to be fed. And then, you know what? Guess what? My soul had a different idea. My soul decided that was not going to be awesome, that you weren't going to be doing this for very much longer because you really weren't opening up to your feminine side. You weren't really opening up to that intuition. You weren't really on your soul mission path. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So my son was born. And he was my firstborn, and he had a ton of issues, physical, developmental. It was like in my face right at the first moment. And so there was a decision that had to be made. And so if you've read my Heart Around Ankles books, you'll know the story where I was with my boss. I had taken my maternity leave and I was going to be coming back the next day. And Nick had been duct taped to a gurney, and that was not awesome to see a 2-month-old with that. And he just looking at me like, what are you going to do? And I looked into his soul and I was like, yeah, I've got to take this moment and I've got to just fix or have people fix whatever's going on. And I don't even know what's going on. And so I walk into my boss the next day. I am just wrecked. And he's, hey, there's a 200-person team. I want you to take over the Americas. You get to get this blah, 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 blah. And I was like, can't. I have to walk away. Shattered. So full identity crisis, the same time that there was just a massive amount of things going on in the house, because not only was Nick having huge issues, my husband was dying. And so there were moments that I was just like, how are we going to get through? What are the right steps to take? And that's where it gets really cloudy and fuzzy. So for those of you who are in those moments, my heart goes out to you because there doesn't seem like there's a direct way through. The only thing I can tell you is that you take those moments 1 minute at a time and you just take the next minute and you don't look up and you just put one foot in front of the other. And so while I was doing that, the universe was really supportive. It didn't feel like that. It was 8 years of sheer hell. But what ended up happening was I was getting to know that the Eastern practices were so incredibly powerful, and they were actually getting to the root of the issues for each one of those males in my family. And I could combine that with the practical, beautiful, scientifically based Western methods. And it was the combination of the two that got us through. Today, when I look back, Nick is completely fine and my husband is completely fine. And so we cleared and we healed and we released and we energetically rewired and we reprogrammed and we did all of those things while we were developing the skills and the solutions and the practices and the methodology for life that we needed to do. And if I had to pick one moment, anybody who's going through crisis, you know that you're not exactly attuned with yourself. But there was a moment that I was sitting there. Nick was probably about 3.5, and Katie was probably about 1, almost 1.5. And there was a gastroenterologist going on and on about this very invasive procedure that Nick was going to have. And I was just picturing the 3-year-old being in this process with this endoscope and all these things. And I'm thinking, to what end? Oh, we were looking for a food allergy. Are you kidding me right now? And that's when my intuition just got a moment and snuck in and said, guess what? You heard about an acupuncturist. I bet acupuncture would work. I listened. I said whatever I said to get out of that doctor's office. and made an appointment. And within one day, one session, Nick had clear digestive tract so he could actually swallow and then start digesting food. Yeah, we had 3.5 years of just not awesomeness with that. And so that's when I started to find my footing. So if I had to find that one moment, I would think that it was that. What I will tell you is that when you combined your intellect, that's your knowing, your experience, the skills that you have, with that intuitive gut instinct, your intuition, that wise person inside of you, that's when you are on the right path. Honestly, it wasn't until 10 years after all the things were working through those 8 years to get Nick to where he needed to be and my husband back on track and all the things, and then I started saying, how could I do this in business? This is so incredibly effective. Like, how could I bring these together? And it takes a hot minute, right? Because I'm taking like all the cosmic intelligence in the universe, and I'm taking 30 years of strategic experience, and I'm continuing to learn on this. And then all the changing trends with AI and the economic trends and the cycles and all those things. And yes, here we are. That is exactly what's happened. And I would love to tell you that was a really clear path. But no, that's one of the reasons why I do the work that I do. So you can have a much cleaner path than I experienced, because I think I probably took 72 detours, right? I wrote children's books, and I was doing things with occupational therapists, and I was doing things with schools, and I was talking about calm, and I was writing children's books and doing the memoir and whatnot. And that got me closer. But it wasn't the thing. Then I was doing magic and having magic classes in my home and doing star parties. And I just was reminded that when I was doing tarot, I did 38 tarot readings in one night for somebody's open house. And so lots of experience was had in order to be able to develop a muscle as strong as my business muscle, as strong as my strategy and my sales and my leadership. And so once they finally got both to be as strong, I could look at them and say, oh, what is being born here? And it's the framework of, do you know, like, and trust yourself? How is your energetic internals of your power aligned with your clear mind, your open heart, and your active will? That's you internally. That's your power architecture. Combining it with precise action to get you to reach the targets that you want to reach: financial, impact, wealth, home, family, travel, fun, all of it. Because you don't separate yourself from business. When we can all cheekily say it's not personal, it's just business, that's BS to some extent. It's not when you want to objectively assess whether a particular business solution is good for you. That's when objectivity is your crystal ball. But when you're determining whether you want to work with somebody, or whether you want to sign on a client, or whether you wanted to be a collaborative partner with someone, it's all personal. And that's where you don't want to separate it. So when we look at that beautiful combination of power is where energy meets action. Now you're getting closer to what my vision is. The vision of the strategic oracle is all about shifting the paradigm of power. Why? It is in this moment that we are going through a great turn. We are going through a power shift. We are going through a new era. We are going through a disruptive wave. Yes, life is different than it was before. Planetary, but all of it is because as a collective, we have cycles that we either endure or grow through or move through. And we get to choose that. So we're in a moment that winter is ending as spring is coming. Doesn't matter what actual season we're in, but that is the moment as a humanity, as the earth, as everyone is experiencing. So when we look at the pacing of things, they move in 85-year cycles. Now, you can be 100 years or it's 80 years. Honestly, it's Uranus. It's how Uranus moves through the signs. It's 85-year cycles. You can say it's up to 100 years. I'm not going to split hairs on that. So if you want to say 100-year cycles, sure, 4 generations, that's beautiful. It's really how Uranus comes back to himself. So he has an 84-year cyclic period. He is the lightning bolt of change. He is the driver of the future, and he sits right next to Saturn in the sky. And so Saturn is the conveyor of the history and the linear functioning of strategy and the prioritization of hierarchy in industry and the basically historical data. Right now, he happens to be in the sign of Gemini, which means innovation is moving at a rapid pace. That is a 7-year cycle that we're going through. Started in 2025, we'll be going through 2032. You layer that with the huge 9-month period that we've recently gone through, then you say, wow, we've got this major shifting from a cosmic perspective, and that always is a lead indicator before the economics kick in, before the geopolitical kicks in, before the industry trend kicks in, and then before you change your business. So isn't it great to lean in and be on the edge of knowing what is happening in the future so you can prepare yourself for it? Strategic oracle work right there. And so I just met with very successful people that were talking about this exact same thing, but had zero belief in astrology. And so they used other evidence-based mechanisms to determine that this was the truth of the cyclic trends and where we are right now and what's going to be happening next. And I just smirked myself. It doesn't matter how you get there. Just the fact that you know that what is happening is we are going through a hugely growth and expansive time. It's springtime. Now, we're going to have some residual change. That nothing, creativity is born out of chaos, right? So it's not like we're going to just smoothly walk in to be like, it's Monday and this is the way the world works. And then the very next day, the world works completely different and it's totally different and it's Tuesday. I mean, there's going to be some shakeups. The key for you is how are you standing in your strength and in those moments that you can say, okay, there are things moving around me. However, I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly how I'm going to get there. And I know what works for me in particular. Because that's the key between success and that yearning for success. So however you define success, it might be 10 figures, it might be 6 figures, it doesn't matter. Your success definition is perfect for you. When you align your energy with what you're doing and how you're doing it, that's when you get sustainability. I can tell a story about an engineer. She was a consultant a handful of years ago. She was having a yearning to do something different. She wanted to do impact in a different way. Her money had become too expensive. And so through soul searching and working with me, she got to know that, wait a minute, her energy didn't really work the way that she had set up her corporate life. And so for her to step away from corporate, for her to get into politics, but not politics, policy. And so she did. It was earth-shattering. How do you give up an extremely successful career and go do something completely different? When your soul wants you to do it, it's going to happen anyway. You might as well say yes. You might as well make it as graceful as you possibly can. And so she did. There are massive amounts of people making major shifts. We are in a huge power shift. My sole mission is to ensure that we are doing it under the auspices. That is where your energy is aligned with you and your actions can be as precise as possible so we don't waste time and money. So how do you actually do this? How do you predict what's coming? And how do you move from misalignment to your mission? First, let's just pull back on the methodology a little bit. You want to break the question down. And what I always say, it's the question is the most important thing. So you want to ask the best question. So how do you do that? You're asking for you. Is this the best? Is it in my best interest? Is it sustainable for me? Do I have the resources for this? Does it light me up? What I always say to my clients is, can you talk about this for 1,000 hours a day? What can't you shut up about if you're going to talk about something with speaking? Or if you're going to do work, can you do this for 100 years? Now, those are extreme and a little ridiculous, but this is where you know it's, yes, I'm salivating to do this. I can't get enough of it right now. Perfect. And then sometimes those questions are like too big. So when you ask the questions, you do want to have big questions. What does this mean for me? What is my big strategy? What are the big trends going on? That's what we've been talking about, big, huge strategic things. But then you also want to look at the minutia. So I'm going to give you an example. When I do the annual forecast, I am going to say, what are the three big things? I love the number three. If I'm looking at change, I'll ask the five big things. What are the essential variables here? So I'm looking across 500 years. Those are really big things. I'm looking for planetary patterns. Like when Saturn is moving from Pisces and into Aries, Saturn is a 3-year cycle from one sign to the other, but it's a 30-year cycle. That's a pretty big cycle for returning again to that same sign. So I'm looking for that. What is it pulling into and pulling out of? I just talked to you about that. That's the history reset. Then I'll look to see what Uranus is doing and Pluto, which is 20 years. And then I'm looking to see how they're engaging with each other. So right now it's a 165-year cycle for Neptune. It's a 250-year cycle for Pluto. It's a 500-year cycle for things coming together. But it's also a 9,000-year cycle for other things to come together. That's huge. I can't really give you good advice on that. But what I can give you is a really big picture and to give you the essence, the energy of how monumental this is. And then I go to the moons. I go to every 2 weeks. So think about it. I go from 500 years to every 2 weeks because I want to look at timing and I want to look to see how it's going to shift for you month by month, week by week, how it looks for you. And then I do everything in between where we have the economic indicators, whether it's interest rates or inflation. Then we have human behavior patterns, like where right now there's trust erosion and there's fear cycles. But for you, when you're looking at your particular business and yourself, you can look at a 10-year window, you can look at a 5-year window, whatever feels big for you. And you can say, where do I want to be then? It's like your big dream. And then you can look and you say, where am I today? I reverse engineer all the time. I'm a strategist. So I literally look at the other side, my destination. I look at where I want to be. I look at my goal. I look at my target. I look at my milestone. I look at my vision. I look at my intention, whatever word you want to use. And then I say, okay, this is where I want to be. So now I'm going to backtrack. That's what made me so good at forecasting. Because I'd say, okay, if you're a $100 million company and you want to be a $250 million company, what are the infrastructure that's going to take to get you there? You need to get to that 250, and then you back into it. And guess what? You're taking inventory of yourself and your company saying, what are we really good at? Great. That's going to go easier. I can rely on those strengths. And then what are we not good at? Okay, now those are the things I'm going to shore up. They're going to have a longer timing sequence. They're going to be something I'm going to need support on. And then you look at that, where you want to be and where you start, and then you just start doing step by step. The third thing that you want to do is when you're looking at data, don't forget the cosmic intelligence. Why? Let's see, Coca-Cola, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, Google. Or when you look at celebrity, Angelina Jolie, Cameron Diaz, Madonna, Beyonce, J-Lo, Selena Gomez, Taylor Swift, and the numbers are growing. Astrology is growing from a $12 billion industry in 2021 to a $23 billion industry by 2030. So this is here to stay. Fast Company wrote about Gen Zs, and I think the percentage is like 60% of them look at their horoscope. We are in a time when the data of the quantum physics and nanotechnology with the art of astrology are going to actually start really overlapping. When I look at scientists, we have Einstein, we have Carl Jung, we have Hippocrates that they believed, Galileo, Kepler, all believed in astrology. And then when I look at politicians, we've got now Trump's family, he hasn't come out and said, but his day-to-day is absolutely on track too. Reagan, as most of you probably know, FDR, Churchill, Theodore Roosevelt, people that are in the line of fire, if you will, to make really big decisions are relying on what the planets are telling. These are timing mechanisms for you. They're telling you when things will shift, not just what will shift. So that's what you want to be doing. Because when we think about what's going on right now, this is like a complete restructuring of power, of authority, of collective systems. These are macro patterns. So when you look at those big, huge energies and you say, I'm changing, I don't know what to do. If you want to continue along the planetary line, look at the new and full moons, because the new moon is when you can manifest and create new things. And then the full moon is when you take stock and you recalibrate. And so that's why I use those timing mechanisms on this podcast, so that you always know where you're going and you always know where you are. Right, what's the next thing? You want to test your predictions. So you want to experiment. So I was just doing a live yesterday, and this gives yourself permission. And the reason why I'm saying that, I had about 35 people in this room, and I was talking about power. And I was saying that the next year, the next few years are going to be so growth and expansive that too many opportunities are going to come in. People get a little nervous about that, because when you say we're going to unleash the hounds, right? And we're going to go of constraints, you're excited at first, and then your mind goes, I can't handle it. That's normal. But what if you gave yourself permission to experiment? What if you did a proof of concept? Or what if you did a pilot? And so I'm remembering that 2 years ago, or actually it would be 3 years ago now, before I started this podcast, I had been getting a lot of pressure to do a podcast. People said they wanted to take me, go driving or whatever, and I was doing all video at the time. And they were like, we can't really do that. We would love for you to have a podcast. And I fought it. I fought it because I knew to do it, I wanted to do it well. I'm a Capricorn. I wanted to do it for a long time. I wanted it to be not only meaningful, but I wanted to, when I committed, I wanted to put the resources, I wanted to put everything behind it. Here we are at our 250th episode, and I just found out that only 3% of podcasts reach the 250. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. And what I ended up doing was quote unquote a pilot. I did a 12 segment series. I was doing live events all the time online. So I did it like that. And I said, okay, if I were to do this, then what, A, are people even interested in it? And then B, what would the format be? And of course, things shifted and changed, but I got to answer a lot of questions through that pilot. It was an 8-week cycle, and it was over a summer, and I wasn't looking at numbers. I wasn't doing CTAs. I was really asking people to give me feedback about a podcast and what they'd want to look for. And so that's the way we designed it. So when you give yourself permission to experiment, it gives you freedom. What's the fifth thing that you do is you want to stay flexible and you want to stay humble. Those of you who know that I've been in rooms where there are billionaires talking, and I'm seated with them and I'm learning and I'm actually teaching some things about power, and it's a really vibrant discussion. The first hour, in the first moment that I had an in-person, I realized I knew nothing about creating wealth. Now, that's shocking because I have 30 years of business experience. I've been in the boardroom for decades. I've done things with billion-dollar companies and 9-figure companies, and I've changed teams, and I've been emerged. I've done all the things. And yet, when it comes to, say, taking a solopreneur, like I say now, I could take people from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. I've never taken someone from 6 to 9 until learning these methods. And so I had to throw every single thing that I thought I knew away in the first hour and say, I know nothing. In order for me to completely be open and to be able to make this massive pivot, I had to admit I knew nothing. Staying humble is really important. That's how we learn. So if intuition is new to you, if strategy is new to you, if a certain way to do outreach is new to you, if wealth creation is new to you, stay humble, stay flexible. So a story that I haven't told in a while is this goes back about 10 years. I was coming out of the spiritual closet, doing things in my home. This woman who I can't name, it's not my story to tell her story, but she came to me and she had 3 businesses going on, and she was working so hard. She was making no money. She looked fabulous online. She looked like she had it all together. She was really good at that. But guess what? The numbers weren't adding up. She was working way too much. She was teaching a lot in 3 different areas. And I said, just because you can teach everything doesn't mean you should teach everything. That was the moment that she was like, yes. So we realigned her business model based on who she was, where she was in life. She's growing a family, what she truly wanted to do. And once we streamlined all that, she went to multi-6 figures and topped out at low 7s, I think. That's more just a lifestyle choice than anything else. Because what she did was she took a step back and she had been learning. I'm not going to name the names of the people that she'd been learning about, but everybody knows them. She's like, I'm just not getting what I need. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, because you left yourself out of the equation. We don't want to leave you out of the equation. You matter too much. So this is what I want to say about the power architecture. It's about your own energy and about what your capacity is and about what you like to do. That matters a lot, but the way you like to work and about what your schedule is and things like that. So speaking of your energy, we're going to go into your intuitive success signature. So if you haven't yet taken that 12-question quiz that's been around for 5 years and 23,000 people have taken it, go ahead to your signaturemap.com. Go ahead and answer the 12 questions. You'll be in good company. So for the wise strategist, patterns. And your superpower is strategic clarity. However, your tendency is to overanalyze, and you want evidence before you'll trust your instincts. But I've got to tell you, you are so instinctive. Please learn to make decisions from wisdom instead of endless data. The 80-20 rule is good for you. 80%, and then say, I'm going to drop this, and I'm going to make a decision. For you, intuitive visionary, you see the whole future. People can't even imagine it yet. You have no idea that no one else does. So revolutionary thinking is your superpower. But your tendency is to have that vision without executing anything behind it. Put the steps together, put the systems together, mechanize, because that's where the money's going to come in, and that's where you're going to be able to get your power of the future to be in the present. For Collaborative Explorer, you have breakthrough solutions through other people. So you have collective intelligence. You know what's happening in the rooms. However, you will tend to compromise too much and you won't take the leadership position. So you can lead through influence instead of consensus. For you, ruling warrior, you can cut through complexity like that. You have bold leadership tendencies. However, sometimes you'll push too hard and you want to get to that bottom line or the yes or the close really quickly. And so what you'll end up doing is you're by yourself standing there. And then you're like, wait a minute, why don't I have anybody with me? You want to take the time to connect with others, whether it's your team to help them stand with you on your vision, or whether it's that relationship that you're building for a long-term client, have a different tempo. For you, creative superstar, you're wildly creative. It's in your name. And you can see things that other people can't see in a way and create it into something of whole cloth. However, your creativity doesn't fit in with regular business norms, so you try to squish yourself into that. Let's trust your process, your own energy, your own sovereignty, and build your business structure around that. One of the first things I do with creative superstars is look at their calendar and I build it with them for their creativity. Then for you, loving alchemist, you can have deep transformation and you elevate others. But it's deep, it's soulful. Sometimes what you'll do is you'll hide yourself because you're so deep, you feel bruised. It feels too raw. But when you step into your power and you start illuminating and you start demonstrating your magic, people flock to you. So here's a little bit of an insight of the 2 stories that I told you about, and then I'll tell you my signature. So that engineer I told you about, she was a collaborative explorer, and she wasn't working with people in a way that was in a standing of influence. That changed everything for her. That entrepreneur giving everything away, she was a loving alchemist, and she was hiding her power, just over-serving and over-delivering. For me, I'm an intuitive visionary. For me to take a step back and to create mechanics and systems and processes and architecture is the difference between me just floating off with some really good ideas and having a successful business. So go ahead and take the quiz. It's free. It takes 5 minutes. Be in the show notes. Go to your signaturemap.com. And here we are, 250 episodes, 10 years of forecasts, 1,800 media features, predictions that have shaped how leaders plan and invest and build. But here's the key. Knowing the future isn't enough. There are a lot of people that will go to the forecasts and they'll know what's coming. I will have done the timing for them for the entire year, but then they walk away and they've gotten a dopamine hit because their mind has found out something. But what is it that they're doing? You want to do these things. So what you want to do, you want to be able to have your architecture receive invitation, instruction, change. You want to be able to step onto your true path. Because I know for me, helping leaders build their architecture, teaching them to trust their intuition, structuring their strategy, showing them how to align with their identity and increase their capacity and step into their own timing windows, allows them to ride these waves so that their success is exponential. This is what the power architecture is. This is what your intuitive success signature reveals. And this is what my framework does. It's the bridge between Fortune 500 precision and cosmic intelligence. A quarter of a century, oh good Lord, of business strategy and intuitive magic. And hundreds of business leaders and billions of dollars in business oversight. And so this is my work. This is what the strategic oracle is. It's part prediction and precision and part intuition and intelligence. Big, huge swaths of time and energy and dreams and very precise, intricate daily action. And so for you to get to where you want to be, here's my invitation. Stop waiting for permission or the perfect conditions or someone else to tell you that you're ready. You already know what to do and your intuition has been signaling it. Here's the key. Do you trust yourself enough to follow it? Because right now in this big expansive growth springtime, the future doesn't belong to the people with the best prediction. It belongs to the people who trust themselves enough to act on what they know. And if you understand your power is where energy meets action, and if you have the courage to stand in the intersection of both of that. So I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for listening. I want to celebrate the 250th episode with you and that 10th year of the forecast. As always, truly, I thank you for trusting me with your time and your intention and your transformation. Because the next 250 episodes are going to be even better. This new era is just beginning, and you are exactly where you need to be. So until next time, happy soul tidings. You've been listening to the Strategic Oracle, where success isn't scaled from speed, but from soul. If this stirred something real, follow it. Apply for activation, enter the vault, or pause right here. Integration is leadership too. Because the truth is, you were never meant to chase the timing. You are meant to become it.